amazing! Or just because her fuzzy friend can live there too? Find your new home at fizzyhaze.com. Fizzy Living, reinventing renting.
London, switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and Be Unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
The B&Q 3 for 2 offer is now on, including an unmissable 3 for 2 on all paint, such as Dulux, Valspar, and Farrow & Ball. For this show-stopping deal, hurry to B&Q. You can do it when you're 3 for 2 it. Every third item per single transaction in the send-in price order free. Offer ends November 3rd. See DIY.com.
Hello? This is Dustin. I found something. Is anybody there?
We hear you, Dustin. With Sky Q, you can easily catch up on epic Netflix shows like Stranger Things and then watch award-winning Sky originals like Chernobyl. Get Sky and Netflix all in one place on Sky Q for one surprisingly low price, just £25 a month. Visit sky.com and join today. Offer ends November 14th. 18-month minimum terms. Prices may change during contract. Requires Sky Q box connected to broadband. Set up from £20. Further terms apply.
Gosh, can we put the heating on?
Sorry, it's broken.
Can I play some tunes on my phone then?
Yeah, afraid not. Play CDs, though.
This car belongs in a scrapyard.
I know, but I get nothing if I scrapped it.
Actually, you can get at least £2,000 off a new Ford for it.
Really?
With Ford's New for Old scrappage scheme, you can get between £2,000 and £4,250 off a new Ford car if you scrap an eligible vehicle with us responsibly. Also, there's 0% APR representative on Ford options. Ford. Together, we go further. Search Ford Scrappage. Exclusions apply. Contracted and registered by 31st of December 2019 at participating dealers. Age and ownership criteria apply to scrappage vehicle. Subject to status. Free post Ford credit.
As we wrap up this first big week of non-bank earnings, S&P half a point from its record close, shooting for a third week up, fighting the Amazon tide, though, today, opening bell in about 7 minutes.
Options action.
Chase the sun with TUI to over 40 long-haul destinations. Explore the beautiful beaches of Jamaica, sip margaritas in Mexico, or see the many wonders of Asia. And until the 26th of October, enjoy £150 off per booking. When you fly with us, we'll take you there on one of our state-of-the-art Dreamliner planes. TUI, we cross the T's, dot the I's, and put you in the middle. T's and C's apply. Minimum spend £1,200 and available on selected holidays. See website for details. Atoll protected.
Hi, this is Brian Weber, host of NFL First and Goal every Sunday, kicking off at 1 Eastern only on TuneIn Premium. Be sure to listen this Sunday for the ultimate football fan experience, featuring 7 hours of commercial-free coverage of every scoring play around the NFL.
Deep left center field, a grand slam!
October baseball is here, and TuneIn Premium is your ticket to the 2019 MLB postseason. Featuring the home and away feeds for every game, TuneIn Premium delivers every call of the ALCS, NLCS, and the 2019 World Series through the voices of the local radio broadcast teams.
In the air, left field and deep. He's at the wall!
Now until a new champion is crowned, hear every play of the 2019 MLB postseason live on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
At home or on the go, stay up to date on the latest news and political trends with Fox's full lineup of shows. Plus, when news breaks, Fox has you covered with live updates and expert analysis on the biggest developing stories. Listen to Fox News Talk anytime on TuneIn.
In the dictionary, a podcast is this: a digital audio file made available on the internet, typically as a series of which new installments can be received by subscribers automatically. But on TuneIn, a podcast is this.
I'm Rachel Martin with David Green, and this is Up First from NPR News.
And it's defined like this.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show.
From news, sports, to pop culture, comedy, and beyond. Define your own podcast possibilities on TuneIn.
This is not a commercial. This is a reminder. With TuneIn Premium, you could be listening to more music commercial-free. Get over 45 commercial-free music stations. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
College football is live on TuneIn. Listen for free to games from more than 140 schools all season long.
All the way to the the checkerboard. Touchdown.
Despite the loss last week, the Badgers still control their Big Ten destiny. Wisconsin will face a formidable opponent as they try to get back on track with the undefeated and third-ranked Ohio State Buckeyes this week. The action starts at 9 a.m. Eastern this Saturday. Just search college to listen today.
You're watching CNBC Squawk on the Street, live from the financial capital of the world. The opening bell in 4 minutes. Happy Friday, everybody. It's been a busy morning so far already. Billionaire investor Ron Barron, well known for his buy and hold strategy, says he expects the Dow to hit 650K in 50 years. Listen to what he told Becky Quick this morning at the annual Barron Conference in New York.
If you invested in amidst turmoil in 1969, you would have made 25 times your money. I think the 6.5% annual growth is going to continue on average for the next 50 years, at least. And then what that means is that Dow Jones, which is now 26 or 27,000, up 25 times, that's 650,000 on the Dow.
All right, he loves big numbers with long time horizons. Talked about Tesla being 20 times your money.
Yeah, I don't know. Look, I like a lot of things in the stock market, but if you had told me that the 30-year Treasury would have been the best investment and also risk-free, it tells me that while Ron is preternaturally positive, there's a lot of ways to make money. I don't want people to feel too complacent here. There's a lot of good stocks. There are a lot of bad stocks. And if you want to go do the S&P, you really haven't done anything of late. It's fine. But don't expect that. I think that's a way too great a return that he's predicting. Way too great. It'll make you very complacent. There's things that happen during periods. I mean, look, we have a critical election coming up, all right? And I think that everybody, including a putative President Warren, would agree that don't look for the stock market to do great if she wins. It's not the point of her election. So, I mean, let's just be a little, maybe you should be a little more circumspect of when you want to be in Ron Barron's camp. Because we don't know who's going to win the election. Look, we have a Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals decision coming up on Affordable Care. If it goes against Affordable Care, then maybe Senator Warren comes in with her plan, the president comes in with his. Senator Warren's is the plan she has for health care is equal to the entire budget of the U.S. government.
Here's a 50-year chart of the Dow, and critics still say it lately has been fueled by debt, you know, in the form of corporate debt issuance, buying back shares.
Well, there's nothing wrong with it, putting excess capital to work. Look, if you want companies that don't do that, go buy the cloud stocks, go buy biotech stocks. But I just think what's important is to recognize that there are times that it's like kind of Ecclesiastes, you know, to everything, turn. There's a season. It's not going to necessarily be great. I think Ron Barron's saying, listen, don't do buy and homework, just go on auto buy. And I know that, look, we also know that that's been Warren Buffett's method. I just don't want people to get hurt.
50 years, robot armies are going to roam the streets.
Skynet? You come with the Skynet thing again?
Will be, Elon Musk will be in everybody's brain. And I mean, come on.
Well, that's a doomsday scenario.
I guess companies will still need to raise capital with their robot masters.
All right, let me
Although Brexit might still be uncertain at that point. We might not know.
That will be forever.
I'll give you a positive.
Some things are not, but Brexit is forever.
No, that's forever. I mean, we'll forever. The one thing, look, I had Nick Akins on last night. He's the CEO of American Electric Power, AP, which is the nation's largest power distributor. 40% of our power is going to come from renewables in a couple of years. There you go.
It's not going to come
How about
from
that?
people being in pods?
No.
Like the Matrix?
No.
Got to make sure.
Let's get the opening bell here in the S&P 500 at the CNBC Real-Time Exchange. Celebrating an IPO down here today. It is UDow, China-based education technology company. At the NASDAQ, it's Progeny, a fertility benefits management company in the U.S. We'll talk to them on Squawk Alley.
Maybe this will be one of the Chinese companies that doesn't lose you a fortune. I wonder what Mike Pence has to say about this. Is he a buyer? No. Will it be added to the MSCI index? suddenly Henry Fernandez, an old friend of mine, is on. He's in the crosshairs of Washington.
If you had your way, you'd prevent all these people from having such a great day here at the New York Stock Exchange, enjoying seeing their company going public. If you had your way, there'd be no capital raising by Chinese companies.
Absolutely.
In the US markets.
Yeah, absolutely. What's the matter with that?
I think it's wrong-headed.
You do? You think it's ill-advised?
I do. I do.
If I had my way, I would know. Hey, look, these are all nice people.
Two-economy system in the world.
No, I don't think these companies... Look, we're in a trade war with these people. They're raising money here to defeat us. I think that's kind of silly. What's the point of that? Let's have some rules. Let them abide by the seven sins that Peter Navarro is talking about. These are one of the more important trade negotiators. What's been the process of trade negotiation? Mnuchin comes in, gets some deal that the Chinese can't fulfill. There's been no giant buy. And then Navarro goes to the president and says, listen, we've been had again. You know, that's my biggest worry. I've been checking the Twitter file the whole show because I'm wondering whether this isn't the day that Trump loses his temper.
The Chinese not only dissed Pence's speech, called it lies and arrogance, but the Reuters today says they're going to talk by phone, officials on both sides today, and that China's going to want cancellations of tariffs to boost the ag buy.
Well, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Jeez. I mean,
so are you counting on APEC being significant or not next month?
Look, I think the president's going to move these tariffs up if the Chinese don't do something.
So no signature, no phase one signature.
No, and I mean, look at this crowd. I mean, these are just incredibly nice people, but this is the exact opposite of what Navarro wants. And I have to tell you, I think Navarro's in charge. I've said that from day one. Navarro does not go down the elevator. Mnuchin goes down the elevator. Navarro lives to play again.
He does.
Yeah, but that's
he lives in his dark little tunnel.
No, The Apprentice, David.
Hatred.
That is so unfair.
Really?
That is so unfair. That is so negative.
Okay, I'll take it back.
How about the NBA? You think that's great that they black out the NBA there?
No, I think these are important issues that we're dealing with here in terms of free speech. And
what a statement by you. Where's Adam Silver?
I agree.
Adam
Silver stood up and said that
I am pro Adam Silver. I'm not. Look, I'm also pro the Sixers. They look great. But look, I just think that we're in a really bad moment, and we sit here and we think, hey, listen, the Chinese, it was good. They came. What was good? What did they do? What have they delivered? Aren't they just once again making the president look bad? And then remember the president around 4 o'clock, he freaks out and he starts saying nasty things, and. Can you believe that Twitter can't capitalize off the president? We're all watching that.
Yeah.
And that Twitter was people still thinking about that.
People are still, Goldman took him to hold yesterday. Lack of visibility regarding the ad platform. I see JPM and RBC go to 40, cut the target to 40 today.
I know. That was a shocker. A lot of people felt that maybe that they were capitalizing off of things that they don't want to cap. I mean, did they have a Facebook problem? By the way, people still talking about how poorly Zuckerberg did in front of Washington. I think that's wrong. I think that you're going to be wrong no matter what. Everybody, you think that they're going to say, hey, man, that's a great-looking sweater? I mean, come on, it's a grandstand.
Others have said, you know what, a great move by Twitter would be to come forward and say, you know what, we're not going to do political ads. We're not going to be in the business of letting misinformation flow.
Well, when they come out and say, listen, we're going to miss the quarter, we're not.
I'm going to say, the question is, would the stock trade up or down that day? It's a good, interesting question.
It's a really interesting question after what's happened. I mean, I keep coming back to saying that it's one of the must-buys. Snap is a must-buy. By the way, we don't talk enough about how Instagram is continuing to gain. And you know what? How about all the businesses that have been started by Instagram? I had at the Longshoreman. What is that thing? We had at the Longshoreman, my wife's general manager there. Good restaurant there. It was $30 a throw. You may not want to spend that money, but we had the steak guys in there the other day. The steak guys. I mean, that's a company. They're on Instagram. Everybody. There are companies. There are people who have hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram, and all they do is tell you that they like a certain product.
They are influencers, yes.
Yes, and I think that's a great business, and that's the one that if I were Zuckerberg, I would be talking about empowering those businesses, because that in Shopify. That's the and by the way, Have you been looking at what Square's doing? Square's been doing a lot of things about empowerment. And they also started doing that fractional share thing, which I like. Get fractional share, because none of these guys split their stocks anymore. You can get fractional share at Amazon. It's good, David.
Is it good?
Yes, it's good.
Okay. Is it safe?
No, it's not safe.
It's very dangerous. Be very
safe.
careful.
No, it's very safe.
Speaking of things financial, KBW this week, Jim. The bank index 52-week high. Today, Deutsche names Goldman a catalyst call by IDEA. Says they're going to name some ROE targets in January that are surprisingly.
Yes, they are, and I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to getting the Malaysian one be off the table. I don't think that Apple's going to speak enough about the credit card next week. I think that the credit card is a very controversial thing. Why? Because you don't know whether you're going to pull it out of your wallet or not. I understand the chain smokers are going to be involved. You're going to start getting a millennial approach. The band. It's not Firefest, David. And I think that what you're going to see is younger people. They're targeting younger people. They're targeting the people who are pre-millennial. And Apple's not going to talk about it. And by the way, Goldman was not at all upset by the fact that the commercials say there's no bank, given the fact that Marcus Goldman is involved. I think it's going to do well. I think their credit card's going to do well.
You've said that a number of times.
Well, because I'm the only one who thinks that.
No, I don't think that's true.
Why? Name me another person who thinks that.
I don't know.
Yeah, you don't.
No.
I think the Apple call is going to be... Katie Huberty really raised the bar about what Tim Cook has to say.
But Goldman had a lot of positive things to say about the launch of the card around their earnings.
They have some very smart people who are saying...
the CFO sounded pretty positive about it.
Really, Bob. I'm glad you pointed that out, because Steve Scher is not a guy who is... I
don't think you're not out there completely alone.
Well, will you take it from it's a little heavy.
Is it?
Yeah, you could get a sports hernia from carrying that thing. What?
Guys, worth mentioning, our parent company yesterday reported earnings.
Yeah, what the hell was that turn?
It didn't really go up. It is up today, perhaps on the back.
No, it really went down, David.
It did go down. We don't like to say down.
Really go
we
up,
don't like to say
negative yardage.
Didn't go up.
It was up. It went up. Yes.
Thank you. Exactly. But Charter this morning reports earnings that are being well received. The stock is up over 5%, of course. One of the larger distributors of broadband and video services in the country. Still has a wireless business the same way Comcast does. They're using these MVNOs. Perhaps the number that struck investors most positively, although there are a number of them, they only lost 77,000 video subs. People still keeping an eye on that. Remember, yesterday Comcast lost 238,000. Although adding all-time highs in terms of broadband and customer relationships. Same with Charter. Strong additions. Internet, 351,000 additions, and that was up 85,000 from the third quarter's number of additions. And so a positive response there.
There's a lot of companies that are positive, even though the numbers don't look that good. Illinois Toolworks, ITW, they missed on the revenue line, and here we are, all-time high. People want to own cyclicals again because a lot of people are thinking, you know what, we're not going to have a recession. ITW is a great cyclical. They even have auto, and it's done well. PPG had auto, by the way, they managed to be able to slim down their auto business. That's why it went up. But ITW is a classic case of a stock that was down in the 120s. Now it's 160 when people were worried about a recession. They're not worried about a recession anymore. They're overlooking all the negatives and buying the stock of ITW.
You couple that with Honeywell, UTX.
Yes.
Even this growing theory that the ISM sentiment is overstretched when it comes to actual IP in this country, industrial production.
September was a good month in the country. And people seem to be thinking that Germany is making a resurgence too. But the month of September is a month that people are saying, you know what, we got an inflection. By the way, American Electric Power, again, largest power distributor, September, good month.
Yeah.
Caterpillar, their numbers, September, good month.
How about PCG, PG&E? Back to levels that we saw when the fire was once again a story. Right?
I keep hearing from the utility guys I deal with that it really is the trees. That you know, when you look at your trees, when you know what happens, David, when the guys come in and take your trees apart, those Asplund machines come.
There's concern about. I mean, there's some talk about trying to. It's not nationalized. I don't know what you call it when you make it these state.
I don't know.
But takes it over. You've got the competing plans. Remember, that was the last leg down before the latest with the concern about any liability from the current fires. The last leg down was when the judge did not consider exclusively the plan that had been proposed by the board and management, but also was considering the Elliott plan, which would be a lot less.
You're talking about seizure
for equity holders in terms of what would be remaining. But then there's this idea. I'm not sure, being floated by some of the municipalities, that why can't we just
take it over?
Take it over.
I know. Hold it, David. I got to stop you right now.
Why?
David, the stock of CBS is up.
Put out a news alert.
David, I'm not kidding. It's actually up. It's like, what happens when a stock starts here
it's
and
not
it goes here?
Up, it's really up.
No, it's actually up. It's up a couple of pennies. Now, this is something, maybe it's because Jack Ryan comes out. Is it the Jack Ryan movie?
Maybe it just got to a level that some people feel it's cheap.
Well, what is that,
It has
David?
been suffering ever since we highlighted in the S4 those particularly low EBITDA, free cash flow.
When you kiboshed it.
Which really had to do with the spend that may be anticipated at combined Viacom CBS to a certain extent. But you're right, it is up. It has been a tough road for any of the shareholders who'd hoped for a move up once the deal got announced. It's been almost nothing but down.
We remember when Les Moonves would come on.
Numbers.
Yeah, he used to come on the call and tell you, look, we the most watched network, and we've got this program, and ratings are up.
That's all still true.
No, but they don't have that Les Moonves, look, I'm the greatest, we're the greatest, it's the greatest thing going on anymore.
No.
They don't.
No.
So look what happens when you lose the less is less.
Yes.
I used his name many times.
You do.
I violated the rules. I said his name.
There's no problem with it.
It's one of the 7 dirty names that Carlin says you can't talk about.
Clear what he's doing these days. Speaking of companies and successors,
what do you got?
Well, Corbat, Jane Fraser.
David, 3 years. 3 years. He's going to at least be another 3.
You're sort of getting some attention paid.
New president of
He's
Citi.
only 59 years old.
Yeah.
Corbat.
He looks 40. Yeah, that's okay. Why not? It's okay.
But he's already, James, he takes over as president.
He has noticed.
Run the consumer bank.
He said he's going to run that bank to 62. If she does a great job, obviously she's going to be the heir. I think it's fantastic. In front of Congress, they were asked, "Is there ever going to be a major, bank with a woman?
Will there ever be a woman who takes over?"
It looks like it could be Citi.
This could be the case.
Why not? This is National Women's Business Week, and no one even talked about it. What's that about?
Nobody even talked about it being national.
National business. Yeah. Well, that's because yesterday was Wednesday was National Dr. Pepper Day. I mean, there's like a lot of national days.
A lot of holidays.
National David Faber Day. What do we do? We sit around and just look grumpy and not shop. That's some day.
How did you know? That's
some day.
Every day is. Yes.
That's the opposite. That's the opposite of Singles Day. It's the opposite of Singles Day.
One more touch on Amazon, which was down 6+ in the pre-market, now down less than 4, I guess, Jim, off the early morning lows.
And the sellers will come back. They're never going to stop. They want to finish their selling today and go ahead and make my day. It's just not that bad. It has to do with gloom factor versus not gloom factor. And I think that the sellers do have to come back in the day because the brokers want to mark the stock down, probably the low of the day when they jam it. But I like the stock. I just think you get these opportunities, as you mentioned, 6 times. And that's it. It just keeps happening because people misinterpret everything that is said on that call, which is we're happy because business is really good. What's the matter with that? Nothing.
Really quick, Beyond Meat is back below 100.
It's that lockup.
Not only the lockup next week, but earnings as well. We'll get a look at their numbers.
Well, what is that $6 billion company when you got Tyson? Which, by the way, catches a very nice report out of Merrill today. You got Tyson, you got Nestle's. They're really making a move. I've had the Tyson, by the way, the pea-based chicken tenders.
You have?
They're killer.
Really?
They're absolutely killer.
What'd you have on them?
What I have on? No, you didn't. I just had them straight
sauce.
up. I had a little bite dipped in barbecue sauce. But those are fantastic. The Impossible Burger, it's just, on fire. And Hormel, which, by the way, gets started with a cell. Look at this booster shot needed to fight this fever. I mean, they make it sound like you're, here, have some influenza. Gee, I think it's a better story than that, but it's rising pork input.
You ate Spam on live TV, so we know where you're coming
There's
from.
There's nothing like drinking Spam juice in the early morning.
It was pumpkin spice.
With a pen.
Have you ever had Spam juice and mezcal?
I know I haven't.
Mescal spam? David, get in line.
Okay.
We got to move on, David.
Intel and Cat doing yeoman's work here. Dow's up almost 60. Let's get to Bob. Hey, Bob.
Happy Friday, everybody. Intel and Amazon moving the indexes around. And some of the ETFs, these big market cap weighted companies can do that. Let's just take a look at the sectors that are moving here. There's the semis on the upside. And, of course, Intel is 8% of the weighting in the semiconductors index. So when that's up, we had good news from them. Generally, free cash flow guidance was strong for the rest of the year. That's a good sign for the overall space here. Semiconductors, of course, a little bit of a bellwether for tech demand. Home builders have been doing well recently. Regional banks have been doing well since the earnings season started. Consumer staples a little weak. Amazon, as Carl mentioned, is the big mover. Was down 6% in the pre-open, now down a little bit less than that. As you can see, just about 4%. But we're 15% off of the old highs for Amazon, which we hit back here, as you can see. And it does move the indexes when you have these big market cap companies. Let me just show you here. It's Amazon's 3% of the weighting in the S&P 500. But look, it's almost 23% of the consumer discretionary weighting, and in the NASDAQ 100 triple Qs, it's almost 10% of the NASDAQ 100. And you can see when these things start moving a little bit that they tend to affect the overall indices. So just put up here how the S&P 500 is against the consumer discretionary. You see just flat here, but consumer discretionary much weaker. That's because of Amazon. You see the difference there between the two, and also the triple Qs weaker than the S&P 500. That's also because of the influence of Amazon. See how these big market cap stocks move these ETFs around that you own and we all know and love right now. Let's just move on here. The consumer, oh, look how it's moving these. See, this is a market cap weighted semiconductor ETF. Because it's so heavy in this group here that you see here, you can see how Amazon is moving that down. And this is an equal weight ETF, and it almost has no effect on that. So market cap versus equal weight really changes it. It depends on what you own here. You got to know these ETFs and what you're owning. Let me just move on to Visa. The consumer's healthy. Bottom line, Visa had very good numbers. And the more important thing is they had initial 2020 revenue guidance that was very strong. This is an indication. Visa at least believes that the U.S. consumer is going to be strong. That stock's been a monster this year, trading to the upside. That's good news. U.S. consumer is the global growth engine right now. Finally, maybe a little bit of excitement down here on Monday. We're finally going to get Virgin Galactic down here. Now, this is not an IPO. They're not floating any new shares here. You might recall what's going on here. Richard Branson is going to own 51% of the company. Social Capital, that's Jamal Palihapitiya's group, is going to own 49%. Recall that Jamal floated a SPAC down here a while ago. The symbol is IPOA, and that is still trading as of today. But what's going to happen is, here was the announcement. They were buying into it right there. IPOA we want to put up there. The important thing is that company, IPOA, is going to go away. Richard Branson's capital is going to go into it here, and on Monday you'll see a new company, SPC. Should be very exciting, Carl. They're going to have spacemen down here. They'll have a spaceship. They know how to do things right. We'll be here covering all of that. Back to you.
To Bob, thanks. Meantime, former Goldman CEO Lloyd Blankfein, speaking at CNN's Citizen Conference in New York, made some comments on presidential candidate Elizabeth Warren, capitalism, and what he would pay in higher taxes.
I sure as heck would be willing to pay more tax if I could buy a a happier and less polarized society, for sure.
Would that help?
It would help, yeah. So I think it would help the mood of the country, and I think it would get some focus on real initiatives that we should be doing and grappling with real problems and real opportunities instead of everybody hacking at each other all the time.
Comes on the heels of Ron Barron addressing it today. Obviously, Lee Cooperman this week with some comments about Warren that we can't even say on TV.
Yeah, look, I think that people are waiting for her to move a little bit to the center, and it hasn't happened yet. I happen to think she's a person of far more reason than other people think, but it has not. She's not produced that yet. I think that when I was speaking to Michael Meyerdorf last night, who is the CEO of Centene, which is the largest managed care company for Medicaid, and he just says, listen, there's really no consensus in Washington for what she wants to do in the House or Senate.
Well, why is she blowing away Biden in these new polls?
Well, I just know that Nancy Pelosi does not support her view. And, Speaker Pelosi is still very powerful.
Yeah, it continues to be an area of great consternation for many on Wall Street, as you might expect. But you do need to remember, Iowa's still a long way away. Even if if she were to actually ascend to the presidency, we still do have these other chambers.
You have to have
actually are supposed to be equal parts.
You have to have every senator, every Senate race go Democratic. Every single one. And you still do not have the supermajority to back up what is going on, what she wants in health care. But remember, that Fifth Circuit decision is going to come down very quickly. It's going to cause total mayhem when the Fifth Circuit decides.
You're talking about the Affordable Care Act. Yeah.
Yes, I am talking about the Affordable Care Act, David. David, there's a podcast. You have to look at me, and then you have to say something. You can't just do that usual.
I just explained to people what you were talking about.
All right. Well, it's better than nothing, I guess.
It is.
Jeez. Yeah, I like you going into the weekend.
When we come back on Monday, by the way, be sure to watch an exclusive with Snap's Evan Spiegel. Snap's shares year to date, obviously way outpacing Twitter. Dow's up 72.
The Bond Report.
Fall in love with the brand new iPhone 11 at Tesco Mobile. Take amazing photos with Apple's best ever ultra-wide lens camera. You can get the iPhone 11 for just $37.75 a month with no additional upfront costs. What's not to love? Search Tesco Mobile or visit us in store. Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
36-month credit agreement, rolling monthly usage contract. Subject to status, phased policy applies. See tescomobile.com/terms.
The B&Q 3-for-2 offer is now on, including an unmissable 3-for-2 on all paint, such as Dulux, Valspar and Farrow & Ball. For this show-stopping deal, hurry to B&Q. You can do it when you're 3-for-2 it. Every third item a single transaction in descending price. Free. Offer ends November 3rd. See DIY.com.
This autumn, as the nights draw in, beat the cold with Now TV. Curl up with the latest blockbusters, including Bohemian Rhapsody and Hotel Mumbai. Plus, with over 40 new movies added each month, from Aquaman to How to Train Your Dragon 3, Now TV's got you covered, wherever you feel like watching. Get cozy with the latest and best movies for just $11.99 a month. Search Now TV today. 18 plus month passes auto-renew. Unless cancelled. Terms apply.
Want to know what's happening in right now? The latest headlines are just a tap away with Fox News Talk on TuneIn. When news breaks, get up-to-the-minute coverage on developing stories from around the world. Plus, hear all the Fox shows you watch on your TV. Listen to Fox News Talk around the clock on TuneIn.
TuneIn puts you on the sideline for the 2019 college football season free all year long. With college football on TuneIn, hear the home and away call for more than 140 schools live, regular season matchups and rivalry games, conference championships and bowl games, the college football playoff.
Throw it. He's got it on his stiff arm. End zone. Touchdown.
You can listen to it all for free at home, on campus, or on the road. Hear the excitement and pageantry of college football all season long, free on TuneIn.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
From the TuneIn Studios, I'm Fonseca with your daily sports update. The World Series continues this evening. 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern is when we're going to get that first pitch. Houston Astros, Washington Nationals.
You don't want to be down 2-0, but here we are. I don't think anybody here is, I think the message is just don't hang your head. We didn't play our best baseball. We don't have time to feel bad about ourselves.
Again, that first pitch is at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern. If you want to catch it, search MLB and favorite your team. Even set up reminders so you don't miss a moment of the World Series right here on TuneIn.
It's easy to get lost in this crowded week of earnings, but Biogen's Alzheimer's news is one you don't forget. That's the lead S&P gainer for the week, along with Lam Research and Align also on the list. Meantime, Dow's up 67. We're back in just a moment.
Tomorrow,
Did you know TuneIn doesn't just live here on your smart speaker? From the audio that moves you to the audio that gets you moving. Soundtrack your every movement with the free TuneIn app. Available on your phone or tablet. Download TuneIn on the App Store today.
Far wing elevates. Triple bucket.
The roar of the crowd. The shot clock ticks down. Will the ball go in? The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. And the replays just don't cut it.
The sideline, the man fleet for three.
TuneIn Premium brings you every minute of the NBA season streaming live, so you can be there when it matters most. Hear it now, hear it live on TuneIn.
Pump fake in the lane, turnaround jumper from 8 feet is good on the right
Search
block.
NBA today to start listening.
Major League Baseball postseason is in full swing, and TuneIn Premium puts you at field level for every.
And it's a home run.
Single.
And gone.
Game.
And that gone, a home run.
With TuneIn Premium, catch every pitch of every inning of every Major League postseason game until the final out of the World Series.
0-2 pitch, little half swing, and it hit.
At home or on the road, Major League Baseball's postseason action is on TuneIn Premium.
And that ball is gone.
Upgrade today.
Heavily covered. Touchdown.
NFL fans, the action continues this weekend on TuneIn Premium. This Sunday, TuneIn has every NFL football game starting with the Seahawks at the Atlanta Falcons at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern and closing out Sunday night with the Packers at the Chiefs at 8:20 p.m. Eastern. At home or on the go, hear the home and away call of every NFL game this season on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
This is not a commercial. This is a reminder. With TuneIn Premium, you could be listening to more music commercial-free. Get over 45 commercial-free music stations. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
Good. Here's a swing and a drive deep to right field. Looking up. Goodbye, baseball.
Between game-winning shots and walk-off homers, follow TuneIn on social media to discover the latest and greatest in live sports.
With the 24th pick in the 2019 NFL Draft.
From live reminders that the biggest MLB games are on the air to recommendations of the best new sports talk shows and podcasts.
He's going to be fine. He's going to be good right away.
Follow at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
Doug Parker from American Air. And then this old friend Sally Krawcheck talking about women in investing. I cannot wait.
All right. More reaction to Amazon when we come back. Dow's up 60 points.
It's a madhouse. They buy things, and I'm wondering, where did this even come from?
There's no way to keep spending under control.
Or to keep track of what everyone's up to. When I'm not there, they all raid the piggy bank. I'm not even 100% sure.
For how we stay afloat.
But on the upside, I never have any of these problems at work.
With Coupa, the cloud-based business spend management platform, you get visibility and control of all your company's spend in one place, so you can leave the chaos at home. Coupa, spend smarter.
Through the AT&T network, edge-to-edge intelligence gives you the power to see every corner of your growing business. From using feedback to innovate, to introducing products faster, to managing website inventory and network bandwidth, giving you a nice big edge over your competition. That's the power of edge-to-edge intelligence.
How do we make the future of energy ours? By knowing who we are, where we're going, by remembering the roads we've traveled, while developing new paths of our own. At American Electric Power, we're working to generate new ideas and empower possibilities for us all. Shaped by who we are, where we live, and what we value, the future is ours to hold.
Ted, going on a trip, huh?
Yes.
Taking an off-road station wagon.
You know it's an SUV.
I know for a fact your SUV does not suck.
Why is that?
It ain't got that vacuum in the back.
We gotta go.
Vacuum in the back. Hallelujah.
You can't just inherit 4,000 acres.
We set up a trust, and that's how we transfer the stock.
Let's run this by BDO.
It was their idea.
People who know BDO.
CNBC Evolve, November 19th in Los Angeles. Insights from the biggest names in business. How today's companies innovate and evolve in an age of disruption. Register now for November 19th at cnbcevents.com/evolve.
Good Friday morning. Welcome back to Squawk on the Street. I'm Carl Quintanilla with David Faber, Morgan Brennan at Post 9 of the New York Stock Exchange. Morgan's in for Sarah Eisen. Interesting market day as the market's going to be buffeted around by the Amazon guidance from last night, but Intel, Caterpillar, Goldman Sachs even helping the Dow up some 45 points. Meantime, we're getting the latest consumer sentiment number from the University of Michigan, just out. Final October read, 95.5. That is compared to the consensus estimate of 96. Most recent read, also mid-month, had been 96. So consumer confidence seems to have been unchanged, given all the news we've gotten the last couple of weeks.
It is a key stat, one that everybody's watching very closely. Our roadmap is going to begin today with Amazon sticking on its earnings miss, with Jeff Bezos losing his title as the world's richest man. We'll dig through those numbers.
Plus the future of capitalism, how CEOs and presidential candidates are looking to reshape the system.
And Facebook's newest feature, we're going to fill you in on the company's latest partnership. That'll be next.
Going to start with Amazon, though. Shares are down, not as much as in the pre-market after the retailer reported its first year-on-year profit decline since early 2017. Shipping costs up 46 in the quarter, weighing on the company's margins and the bottom line, of course. For more on the earnings, we're joined this morning by Aegis Capital tech analyst Victor Anthony and Anthony Chikuma, Loop Capital senior research analyst. Good to see you guys. How much should we worry about this? Or is this the old give them some rope and let them do their thing?
I don't think we should worry about this. I mean, listen, I think there's 4 key reasons why you want to own the stock, despite the results you saw in the margin pressures tonight. Number one, you have a healthy $200 billion plus retail business, growing 20% plus, 2 quarters, consecutive quarters of accelerating revenue growth. It's helped by one-day shipping. It's a game changer for Amazon. Yes, it's costly. But I think over time, Amazon, as they become more efficient at utilizing the logistics capacity, you'll get the margin expansion. You also have a advertising business that's growing in excess of 45%. So that's $10 billion annually, growing 45% plus. AWS, I'm speaking to investors this morning concerned about their deceleration. A 2-point deceleration off a business that's levered to a multi-trillion-dollar TAM that's still growing. That TAM is still growing, by the way. So you have a $36 billion annual revenue run rate that's growing 35%. I don't think investors should worry too much about that. And lastly, Amazon clearly is becoming a logistics company now. And that, I think over time, they'll rival what you see from existing logistics businesses out in the market today.
Anthony, of the things that Victor just mentioned, does the AWS deceleration, is that the biggest worry to the degree that there are worries?
I think that it is the biggest worry. Part of that is the fact that, growth is slowing while at the same time margins are declining. They're talking about making more investments in sales and marketing and infrastructure. And simultaneously, you do have Google and Microsoft pounding their chest. I agree with Victor. The TAM is so big here. And in addition to that, it's kind of the law of large numbers, right? I mean, as Victor said, you do have this company now at a $36 billion annual run rate. At some point, you just can't continue to grow at 40-50% a year.
Victor, when you make a comment like that it's going to become a logistics company that rivals the others out there, are you factoring that into your longer-term models for Amazon? And if so, what do you envision? Do you expect that to become its own revenue-generating business in of itself?
Well, the first part, I have not factored that into my estimates. So that's just pure upside over the next probably 5-10 years for Amazon. But I think it could become a multi-billion-dollar business, possibly into hundreds of billions of dollars over time for Amazon. But this is, you're looking at probably 10 years, 15 years, as they slowly but surely build out that capacity around the globe.
Interesting. Anthony, in terms of AWS and the deceleration there, I mean, it's still such a big business. It's still growing strongly. It seems like the key question now is, were the expectations too high? Does Wall Street, do investors need to start thinking about that AWS growth rate at something lower than 40%?
I think that they do, and you speak to a very important point, investor expectations. I think to some extent, investors, we had this several quarters where where growth was decelerating, but earnings growth was well above anyone's expectations, and operating margins were expanding, and that kind of became the new normal. But I think that was really kind of the exception, not the rule. This is the rule of Amazon. I think that you see them going back into investment mode in AWS, in free one-day shipping, and that's kind of the Amazon playbook.
Victor, you mentioned logistics, and Morgan followed up, but I was making the point earlier, 5 years ago even, we weren't really talking about AWS.
Right.
The advertising business.
Right.
So you think 5 years from now we will be talking about logistics in the same way we talk about those two as a significant other business that is contributing significant profitability?
Oh, yeah. I think, Bezos have talked about this fourth business he's looking for. I think everyone knows it's logistics. I think they'll become, the evidence is already there. You're already seeing Amazon trucks, Amazon, delivery vehicles in your neighborhoods, on highways. There's planes. He's talked about delivery drones. So, yes, he's building out the infrastructure, and not just in the U.S., this is across the globe. And I think there's areas where they're already, they talked about on the call last night in the U.K., they already have a big competitive advantage in the U.K. right now. So, yes. Well, I think the delivery systems are a little bit more inefficient than what they are here in the U.S. And so they're able to really just plug in and take advantage of pockets of inefficiency in the U.K.
Anthony, do you see potential future logistics and transportation business the same way as Amazon? One of the questions I keep coming back to, and this is the conversation I've been having with delivery carriers and others in the industry for years, is who's going to actually sign on to that business? So many retailers out there really see Amazon as a frenemy or even a downright enemy.
So, it's interesting. We do have a little bit of a different take on the infrastructure play. We think a lot of them building out their infrastructure is about creating the capacity to do their own final mile delivery. I think certainly they will, offsource some of that excess capacity. We really think that the next white whale for Amazon is actually in healthcare. And we wrote extensively about that recently. We think that that's just a very large market opportunity, incredibly inefficient. And we think there's several opportunities for Amazon, the most obvious one being in pharmacy, but we think there's other opportunities in lifestyle management, probably on the technology side as well.
That's funny. It seems like it's been a while, Victor, since we talked about the next thing they could get into and disrupt. Where are we right now on regulatory risk? You think?
As we get further and further into the election cycle, I think we'll get calls for more fines, more breakups. But I think this will be an overhang in all the, large cap tech names over the next year. But I think, that will ease post the election. I do not foresee any sort of breakups of these FANG names, Netflix. So I think this is just a lot more conjecture. I do think there should be some regulation, though, in the industry of Facebook. If you see what Google is doing, they're disadvantaging a lot of the companies like Yelp, like Angie's List. That's happening in real time right now, pressuring the businesses of these companies. And so I think just some regulation is needed in this space for Google as well as for Facebook and social media. Amazon, I think you can make the case that, AWS is a different growth business, a different, cash flow business than the rest of the retail business, and you could argue that it could potentially be spun off. But I just don't foresee that anytime soon.
So why use some of the parts at all then when you're going to use evaluation?
Listen, use some of the parts. Ultimately, you think at some point they'll break up. But these are, like I said, different cash flow businesses, different growth characteristics, and you tend to kind of value them differently.
Anthony, what we're not talking about right now? The brick and mortar piece of the puzzle for Amazon, whether it's Whole Foods or some of the other stores that they have. It seems like that's been an area that has been dragging. It's been softening. We look at something like the Whole Foods acquisition. Fair to say at this point in time now that maybe it's not looking like it was the best decision or even a mistake?
I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. You have to remember, the reason that Amazon bought Whole Foods is that Amazon Fresh was just kind of not getting it done, and they realized they needed to have a brick and mortar presence. Now, as you said, retail stores was down 1%, and that decelerated sequentially. But the one thing that's a little bit tricky about that number is that only counts, sales in stores that originate in the store. So in other words, if I buy something online, but then I pick it up in the store, that's not counted in that number. But I don't know if I would necessarily agree with that. And I think that that at some point they're going to figure out other ways to leverage that brick and mortar presence. Just kind of circling back to what we were saying in terms of healthcare. One idea would be to put healthcare clinics in all Whole Foods stores. And also remember that they are coming out with this new, more kind of mainstream grocery chain later this year. And I think that's going to be a pretty exciting opportunity for Amazon long term.
One last thing, less material, but something that David brought up earlier in the week, and that is the Prime Video, right? You got all these services coming online.
Right.
Are people tapping Bezos on the shoulder and saying, why go through the trouble?
Well, I think we've clearly seen the benefits of Prime Video is really to drive Prime adoption, and I think that's worked for them. There's going to be, I think this is really just an issue for Netflix, right? So if we could talk about Netflix briefly, I think this is just will pressure Netflix's, subscriber growth, probably not near term, but longer term. And so I think that's the end result of all these different streaming services coming on. But, the Prime Video was really just to keep retention of Prime memberships
But do they
high.
need to, Victor? Do they need it to retain it, given they're going to one day? I mean, isn't that enough to keep people...
You'd be surprised. The consumer satisfaction with Amazon Prime Video is pretty high. And so if you were to take that away, then you probably put some pressure on the Prime membership.
Anthony, you think so?
I agree with Victor on this. I mean, I don't think it necessarily is a reason that people sign up for Prime, but I do think that it is a retention vehicle. And you are seeing the quality of Prime Video getting better, right? I mean, you just saw them get 15 Emmy Awards. Marvelous Miss Maisel, I believe, won 8. Fleabag won 4. So I agree with Victor on that one.
Yeah. Well, Bezos definitely doesn't miss an award show, so...
No, he's into it.
Yeah,
right. It's not going away.
Victor and Anthony, thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
When we come back, capitalism in the crosshairs, presidential candidates, even some CEOs taking swipes at corporate America. While our next guest says the attacks are just a smokescreen. And Facebook is out with a new feature. We're going to fill you in when Squawk on the Street returns.
You're in charge of hiring, and Indeed has solutions, like online skills tests, which let a candidate show that they are the right hire. And we give you this toy monkey, who will bang its cymbals when the right CV appears on your desktop. Okay, there is no monkey. There is no monkey. But there are online skills tests.
See why more than 250,000 companies in the UK use Indeed for hiring. Visit Indeed.com/try today to try skills tests for free today. Terms and conditions apply.
There's something for everybody this Halloween at Aldi. Dead good sweets, decorations, face paints. Be afraid. Be very afraid to miss out on these shockingly low prices. In store now. Everybody get to Aldi for an amazing Halloween.
Halloween's back, alright.
When it comes to music, I've heard it all. Pink Floyd, Sean Paul, Slipknot. But in the Witch Test Lab, hearing isn't enough. When we test headphones, we really listen. Not just to the music, but to the stuff that gets in the way. The traffic, the chatter, all that. Mind the gap. We simulate the loudest commute to find you the headphones that cancel out the noise. So you know we're only recommending the best.
Which tests harder so you can buy smarter. Visit which.co.uk.
London, switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and Be Unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
The B&Q 3 for 2 offer is now on, including an unmissable 3 for 2 on tiles and flooring, like real wood and laminate. So hurry to B&Q. You can do it when you're 3 for 2 it. Excludes cut-to-measure flooring, flooring accessories and underlay. Every third item per single transaction in descending price order free. Offer ends November 3rd. See DIY.com.
Chase the sun with TUI to over 40 long-haul destinations. Explore the beautiful beaches of Jamaica, sip margaritas in Mexico, or see the many wonders of Asia. And until the 26th of October, enjoy £150 off per booking. When you fly with us, we'll take you there on one of our state-of-the-art Dreamliner planes. TUI, we cross the T's, dot the I's, and put you in the middle. T's and C's apply. Minimum spend £1,200 and available on selected holidays. See website for details. Atoll protected.
Welcome back to Squawk on the Street. Last week, Salesforce Chairman Mark Benioff telling us he believes capitalism in its current form is dead and that it is time for a new era. Benioff isn't alone. Ray Dalio, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, of course, on the political front, taking swipes at corporate America. A few months ago, the Business Roundtable made the case that companies need to value shareholders and stakeholders. It was a big announcement. But our next guest says this so-called woke capitalism is a smokescreen. Joining us now is Time Magazine's editor-at-large, Anand Giridharadas. He's author of Winners Take All. Anand, apparently Jamie Dimon reached out to you not too long after or when you were on vacation in August. I'm not sure if it was before or after the Business Roundtable announcement. What came of that, and why did he choose to do that? And I remember you, by the way. We sat next to each other at dinner. Now it's coming back to me. Okay.
I know. I wish we had some food in front of us right now.
Yeah.
Look, in August, the Business Roundtable, which is an umbrella group representing, many of America's biggest companies, the voice of big corporate America, put out this statement that was immediately billed as historic. It was on page 1 of the New York Times, had big spread in Fortune magazine, and it said, companies should no longer just be focused on shareholders, but should be focused on stakeholders, which is, I think, means human beings in corporate speak. And that seemed like an important statement. I was very skeptical of it for reasons we can get into, because in many ways, this is a pledge of voluntary virtue from America's biggest companies. And it does not include any commitment to actually stop using tax dodges, actually stop manipulating public policy that is good for companies and bad for people through lobbying, actually involve paying people more. It's a pledge to be better, sort of like my annual pledges to never eat more French fries, which have never actually succeeded. So I was quoted in the New York Times piece and the Fortune magazine piece as skeptical. And Jamie Dimon emails me and asks to talk. And we talk. And to his credit, unlike a lot of CEOs, we had a half an hour kind of vigorous back and forth. To his credit, unlike a lot of CEOs, he never once asked to go off the record. We had an honest dialogue. And it got to the heart of why this woke capitalism, this conscious capitalism, this enlightened capitalism we keep hearing from a lot of business leaders, I think isn't going to do much. Because when I pushed him on, if you are saying that companies should be better for the environment, should be better to people, should be better to the communities they operate in, we have an excellent mechanism to make sure they do that, which is called the law, which is called policy. My 4-year-old pledges to clean up after himself all the time and almost never does without any regulatory enforcement. And companies are not that different from my 4-year-old. And as I pushed Jamie Dimon on this, it became clear that that's the red line. Voluntary virtue is fine, but actually thinking about laws, policies, just actual substantive changes that would force companies to take stakeholders, the human beings we live among, into account is not acceptable. And he said two things in particular I want to share.
All right, well, let me follow up, though, with a question, if I can, because, certainly we've been taking note here, as we would, of the rise of ESG, of the increasing amounts of capital that are behind, at least, asking corporations to think about more than simple total shareholder return. And so many of us did look at that announcement as a significant one, although wondering why now. And I'm curious as to your thoughts as to why now, if in fact it was an empty promise. And what you make, though, of the money that is truly moving in to strategies that say, hey, we want you to consider all the implications that a corporation has in the world as opposed to just the one about making money.
Look, I spent a few years writing this book precisely to deal with the question you've asked, which is there do seem to be, you're right, all these gestures all around us about rich and powerful people trying to make a difference. You're right, the ESG thing is real. All the CSR stuff that's happening is real. All the philanthropy from Bill Gates on down is real. Lloyd Blankfein, Benioff, others saying something's broken is real. All of that's real, right? The question I took on in the book is why is it that in an era in which rich people are doing all this stuff from philanthropy to within company activity itself to make the world better, why is it that the fundamentals are as follows? The top 1% still corners 49% of new income. The bottom 80% now have as much wealth as the top 0.1%. The 400 richest families in America, as you know, pay a lower effective tax rate than middle-class Americans. And over the last, 30 years, since 1989, you've seen the top 1% gain $21 trillion in wealth in this country, where the bottom half of Americans have lost $900 billion in wealth. So all that stuff is nice activity. But in my view, it is lubricant in an engine of continued exploitation. It is just enough nice stuff to preserve a system of manic hyper-capitalism in America that is grinding most people down. And you ask, why is democratic socialism flourishing on the left? Why is someone like Donald Trump, who frankly ran against a certain kind of financial capitalism, the president on the right? Why are anti-free trade ideas now spreading? It is because, frankly, a lot of us in journalism also bear responsibility, those of us who cover business in particular. While American capitalism was starting to fail larger and larger numbers of people, we kept telling old stories about how the people responsible for the breakdown of the American dream and the imperiling of the planet could be the cops on the beat to fix it. Arsonists cannot be firefighters. And the only answer to a winners-take-all world is a world in which the winners take less, and they're not going to take less voluntarily, as my call with Jamie Dimon reveals. They're going to have to be made to take less through policy and law.
And that's exactly the point, Anand. And I think sometimes this gets lost in some of the discussions that are had around this idea of capitalism and American capitalism broken, et cetera. It's not just businesses in corporate America and the so-called free market. It's the intersection of all of those things with government. And some of the places where you see the biggest breaks or the biggest dysfunction are some of those industries and some of those areas where the two have intersected very heavily and things have gotten very distorted. So I guess it sort of gets to the key point. Why is it up to something like, say, the Business Roundtable to implement these changes when it should really be the job of, say, Congress and lawmakers?
That's exactly right. But there's an answer to that, which is that the Business Roundtable, let's be very clear, does not want this to be done. Doesn't want stakeholder capitalism, or more humane capitalism, to be prosecuted by Congress and lawmakers. They may say they're open to it, but they don't want that. So what they do is they get in front of it. You talk in PR, you talk about getting in front of a story. They get in front of this capitalist reform agenda that is bubbling up among the people and say, no, don't tax us more. Don't do a wealth tax. Don't regulate Wall Street more. We got this, y'all. We got this. We are going to regulate ourselves. We're going to regulate ourselves, like Mitt Romney's self-deportation. They're gonna kind of make capitalism woke by themselves. And I challenge, my DMs on Twitter are open, like my heart. And I challenge the CEOs of the Business Roundtable. Message me if there is a single tax loophole that you used in 2018 that you plan not to use for 2019 because of this Business Roundtable. Message me if there's a single thing you've lobbied for in Washington in the past that was bad for America but good for your company that you now plan to not lobby for because of this Business Roundtable statement. Let me know if there's a single environmental practice that you were not super proud of before that you're now planning to renounce because of this statement. The burden is not on us to prove that business is somehow not rising to the challenge. The burden is on business to actually get out of the way of a democracy where large majorities of people want to do a bunch of things and keep being blocked from doing so by corporate lobbyists.
Anand, we've got to leave it there. It's certainly a topic that we're going to be visiting often, given its importance in the overall landscape, and particularly given the political season as well. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you for risking infuriating your viewership by having me on.
No, not at all. They want to be enlightened, and they want to hear things in context as well. Author, by the way, of Winners Take All, that is now in paperback.
As we go to break, take a look at the biggest gainers on the Dow for the week. Intel, P&G, United Technologies, Caterpillar, which is up almost 5%, and Dow. We got more Squawk in the Street when we return.
Most people think of Verizon as a reliable...
Will the retirement you get be the retirement you want? Check your state pension and see how you can build on it with a workplace or other pension. Get to know your pension at yourpension.gov.uk.
Fall in love with the brand new iPhone 11 at Tesco Mobile. Take amazing photos with Apple's best ever ultra-wide lens camera. You can get the iPhone 11 for just $37.75 a month with no additional upfront costs. What's not to love? Search Tesco Mobile or visit us in store. Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
36-month credit agreement, rolling monthly usage contract. Subject to status, phase policy applies. See tescomobile.com/terms.
This autumn, as the nights draw in, beat the cold with Now TV. Curl up with the latest blockbusters, including Bohemian Rhapsody and Hotel Mumbai. Plus, with over 40 new movies added each month, from Aquaman to How to Train Your Dragon 3, Now TV's got you covered, wherever you feel like watching. Get cozy with the latest and best movies for just $11.99 a month. Search Now TV today. 18 plus month passes auto renews unless cancelled. Terms apply.
The Better Network is now on TuneIn. This is Brent Musburger. Search the Better Network. That's the BETR Network. And then let us get you better prepared to better enjoy the day in sports. The NFL, college football, basketball, hockey, baseball. Sharpen your edge. The Better Network is now on TuneIn. Be better informed. Be better prepared. Search the Better Network. That's BETR.
Hi, this is Brian Weber, host of NFL First and Goal every Sunday, kicking off at 1 Eastern only on TuneIn Premium. Be sure to listen this Sunday for the ultimate football fan experience, featuring 7 hours of commercial-free coverage of every scoring play around the NFL.
In the dictionary, a podcast is this: a digital audio file made available on the internet, typically as a series, of which new installments can be received by subscribers automatically. But on TuneIn, a podcast is this.
I'm Adam Grant, and this is Work Life, my podcast with Ted. I study how to make work not suck.
And it's defined like this.
Blackout is a suspense-filled thriller from Endeavor Audio and Q-Code.
From news, sports, to pop culture, comedy, and beyond. Define your own podcast possibilities on TuneIn.
Welcome back to Squawk on the Street. When China celebrated its 70th anniversary earlier this month, it unveiled new weapons, including missiles making a lot of American defense experts very nervous. The DF-41 intercontinental ballistic missile is believed to be capable of carrying up to 10 nuclear warheads and hitting the U.S. mainland in 30 minutes. And the DF-17 hypersonic missile, while shorter range, represents a new threat altogether. Both are formidable for different reasons, but both strike at the heart of military modernization and what the U.S. will need as a new arms race becomes reality. So let's start with what America has. The nuclear triad, which right now includes Minuteman III intercontinental ballistic missiles made by Boeing, Lockheed's Trident II, which can be fired from submarines, and cruise missiles launched from bomber aircraft. All are being modernized, but none are hypersonic. The U.S. also has anti-missile systems, including Lockheed's Aegis, which targets intermediate-range missiles, and the Boeing-made ground-based mid-course defense, which is the only system to protect the homeland from ICBMs. But defense experts warn that those systems, those current systems, will not stop China's new hypersonic missile. Hypersonics move super fast, at least 5 times the speed of sound, but with cruise missile-like maneuvering. Unlike ballistic missiles, hypersonics fly at lower and changing altitudes, are harder to see, and can chart an uncertain flight path, making detecting and intercepting them near impossible for current defense systems. The Pentagon is fielding its own hypersonic prototypes through a handful of programs, largely still in the development stage, but so far it's Lockheed Martin that's won some contracts, as has Aerojet Rocketdyne, privately held Dynetics. Some early contracts that have also gone to Northrop Grumman and Raytheon, which is merging with United Technologies, in part to advance this tech. Here's the bottom line. All of these next-gen missiles are sparking a new arms race, and they are a key reason why, longer term, the U.S. has been waging a technological Cold War with China and also with Russia. Guys, I'm bringing all of this up today because we got defense prime earnings this week, and all of these topics were discussed across the different calls. Things like hypersonics getting a lot of attention and representing a lot of burgeoning future revenue streams, all in over the next decade plus, whether you're talking about modernization of the nuclear triad, hypersonics, new missile defense systems. We're talking about future revenue, future contracts that'll go into the trillions of dollars over the next decade plus.
The Russians also are in the hypersonics thing too, right?
They are.
Not just the Chinese.
Not just the Chinese. Russia and China have been developing these weapons, these systems.
But we don't know how far along they really are, right?
Well, I think that's part of the reason why at this military parade earlier this month, these missiles that were unveiled in China got as much attention as they did. We've known that they were developing, but to actually see the prototype there on the street really raised some eyebrows. A very similar situation for Russia as well. I think they're still very much in development. How much can actually be done? But the bottom line here is we're developing our own systems, but we're arguably, depending on who you speak to, still a bit behind.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. When the president's talking about, stopping endless wars. So there's that too.
Yeah. And the hope is that with a lot of these different systems, you never have to use them, right? Deterrence.
Yes. That is the hope anyway. Let's get to Frank Holland with this market flash on AB InBev. This guidance today, no good, Frank.
Yeah, good morning. Exactly right. Shares of AB InBev down more than 10% right now. The company reporting a weak third quarter that they say was caused largely by price increases in some key markets, including Brazil and South Korea. Also, a higher price of brewing for their products. Also, weak guidance for the fourth quarter. The company saying, quote, softer demand, consumer demand in light of difficult macroeconomic conditions are a key factor. On the other side, the company announcing it plans to expand its offering of hard seltzer by offering a Bud Light hard seltzer. It's also considering brewing Corona outside of Mexico. Again, shares of AB InBev down more than 10% after weak guidance in the fourth quarter. Back over to you.
All right, Frank, thanks for that. We're going to watch that closely given their debt load. In the meantime, time for our ETF Spotlight. Take a look at semiconductors. The SMH are racing losses, shrugging off the disappointments from earlier in the week. Sector is on pace for the third positive week in 4. And Intel today leading the pack on those upbeat results and guidance. The Dow components up 7%. Look at the SMH's top holdings. NVIDIA, Texan, Qualcomm are all following Intel higher. Later on Squawk Alley, you do not want to miss Intel's Bob Swan. That's coming up at 11 a.m. Eastern Time.
When we come back, Mark Zuckerberg taking the stage with the News Corp CEO. That's later today. We'll talk about their new partnership. We're going to have the details when Squawk comes right back.
ETF Spotlight is sponsored by Invest.
Hearing is an underrated miracle. Intimate whispers, the lushness of symphonies, the soothing patter of rain on leaves. If you had that taken away from you, it would be a massive loss for most of us. Almost all of us go every day without really stopping to think about just how important it is to us.
Audible presents The Body, a guide for occupants, written and read by Bill Bryson, including original bonus material exclusively available at Audible. Listen free as part of your 30-day trial, $7.99 a month after 30 days, renews automatically.
Hey, we know that Nature Valley nut butter cups are delicious anywhere. But why just sit in the kitchen eating them? When you could be here, chilling outside in the fresh air with a tasty treat. Oh, good night. Whole grain oats with a delicious real nut butter filling. Nature Valley nut butter cups. Get out more.
Be part of the Perfume Shop's exclusive buy one, get the second half price gifting weekend. Buy any perfume in-store or online and you'll get the second half price. Thinking of a present? Think the Perfume Shop for the ultimate finishing touch. Offer ends Sunday the 27th of October. Visit theperfumeshop.com for more details.
Should we go halves?
I'll get this. Let me just get my card, which was in my pocket.
You can't control awkward first dates. But if you temporarily misplace your debit card, you can freeze and unfreeze it on our mobile banking app. Feel in control every day. Lloyds Bank, by your side. You can only freeze some transaction types, T's and C's apply.
You love TuneIn for live-breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
I'm Courtney Reagan, and here's your CNBC News update at this hour. A new criminal investigation is underway in Washington. The Justice Department's probe of the origins of its own Russia investigation is shifting into a formal criminal inquiry. Connecticut U.S. Attorney John Durham is handling the investigation. The move gives Durham power to subpoena witnesses. EU ambassadors have agreed in principle to grant Britain's request for another extension to the Brexit deadline, but they have yet to decide on the length of the new delay.
What I can tell you is that the EU27 have agreed to the principle of an extension and will now continue in the coming days. The intention is to take this decision by written procedure, but for any further questions, I would refer you to the Council.
Crews are fighting another wildfire in California. Massive flames from the tick fire are engulfing the city of Santa Clarita. Authorities say the fire has scorched nearly 3,000 acres and was just 5% contained. More than 50,000 people were forced to evacuate their homes. That's our CNBC News update for the hour. Back over to you, Carl.
Thank you very much. Amazon shares sinking after a rough quarter, but one bright spot is the digital advertising space. Sells to big brands on its retail site. Here to discuss that is Pulitzer Prize-winning New York Times columnist and author of the new book, Deep State, Trump, the FBI, and the Rule of Law. Jim Stewart. Jim, happy Friday.
Hi,
good to have you back.
Good to see you.
So, given all that there is to worry about in the quarter, people look at this other category, up 45, and we've heard people building bull cases on the advertising thing alone.
Well, I think there's a lot of positive in those Amazon numbers. Again, when you look at the sort of overall growth rate of a company that big, it's extremely impressive. And I think the scare from the spending on building out the rapid delivery, you've really got to drill down and see how much of this is infrastructure, how much is a one-time fixed cost, which, is going to really pay back big dividends in the future, and how much of it is an ongoing additional cost. I mean, I was a little nervous when I saw the personnel costs going up, because does this delivery take a lot more people to get it in there? And if it does, and that's a ongoing expense, that's going to is a little bit worrisome. But to the extent they can automate it, just build warehouses closer to the source, all that's all, I think, a very positive investment for them. Because let's face it, that is a tremendous competitive edge if they can get that stuff in there. And meanwhile, they've got all this nice advertising. The cloud is still doing very well. It's a nice looking picture. I think.
But you usually have a pretty critical eye when it comes to giant synergies and antitrust, anti-competitive behavior. You don't have a problem with Amazon.
I don't. I mean, tell me what market they have, exorbitant market share in. I mean, there's vigorous competition in the cloud area. Retail is still very competitive. Walmart has really geared up and seems to be taking them on head on. They've been very innovative, which is what you want to see a company do. That's not the way an entrenched monopolist acts. They just sit behind their moat, cut costs, and earn very, very high margins. And Amazon isn't there yet. I mean, I think their long-term goal is to monopolize retail, but we're a long way from that.
The delivery piece of this is really fascinating to me, because it seems like we've shifted now, pulled things up to one-day delivery. You've seen competitors like Walmart making similar moves. It almost feels like it has the potential to be a race to the bottom, because the costs, and yes, going back to your point, like how much of this is fixed, how much of this will continue to stay, but the costs of delivery in general tend to be very high. The margins don't tend to be very good. And I wonder if we're almost looking at, with not just Amazon, but with retailers in general, whether we're getting boxed into a corner here.
Well, when you say it's a race to the bottom, it might be from the profit perspective, but from consumers, this is really good. I mean, I do think you're raising some interesting questions, because we now have a fairly long history of companies, especially digitally oriented companies, that have been promising this, amazing door-to-door service, and a lot of them are now, wreckage along the path that never did find profitability. But Amazon is the first one with the kind of scale and possibly the technology. I mean, where are the drones? I'm still waiting for a drone to come flying up to my front door. But maybe they can crack this. And I mean, I certainly wouldn't rule it out. I mean, and it's great for consumers if it can persist. The other possibility is, look, they do it, they drive everyone else out, and then, maybe they have to pull back a little bit. Maybe there's some places it really isn't feasible to get the kind of, we'll see. They have some flexibility there.
Jim, don't go away. Julia Borson joins us today to talk about Facebook and launching this new news product. Big story.
Big story, that's right. And it's a big story also for the Dow Jones CEO, Robert Thompson. Of course, they own the Wall Street Journal. And after years of attacking Facebook for devaluing professional journalism, News Corp CEO Robert Thompson seems to be getting what he wants today: cash for his content and other professional news on Facebook. Perhaps help convincing readers directed from Facebook into paying subscribers. Now, Facebook's news tab, which Thompson and Mark Zuckerberg will be touting on stage at the Paley Center today, will include daily stories created by Facebook's team of professional journalists. Facebook will also encourage users to link their news subscriptions into this tab. Now, Facebook is not providing financial details, but it is reportedly launching with about 200 publisher partners. That includes the Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, Business Insider, as well as NBC, CNBC's parent company. Now, Facebook will pay some of them as much as $3 million per year, but some publishers won't be paid because the real value is the traffic to publishers' websites and the potential subscribers that Facebook could help drive. Now, Facebook's payments to publishers are a small financial commitment relative to its $16.6 billion in revenue in the second quarter alone, but it is a dramatic about face after just last May, Zuckerberg dismissed Rupert Murdoch's proposal that Facebook should pay publishers what he called a carriage fee. And News Corp's public embrace of Facebook is also a reversal. CEO Robert Thompson said last year, if journalism were a film, the last decade is certainly the equivalent of a slasher movie, the Silicon Valley Chainsaw Massacre. So now we'll have to see if the News tab ends up being meaningful for publishers or for regulators who are scrutinizing Facebook's ad dominance.
All right, Jim, your thoughts on this?
Well, I'm kind of not exactly disinterested observer here as a journalist, and
or are we?
Or you? I mean, first of all, from my own personal interest, I'm happy to see any revenue stream heading in the way of supporting real journalism because it is really expensive. I don't think people realize how much work goes in sometimes to getting the real news, to getting the stories that people don't want to tell, and making sure that it's fair and that it's accurate. It's very expensive. So I'm kind of intrigued to see this through. The other thing I have noticed for some time is digital has so, upended the model. I mean, I see reports sometimes on a story that I've written and where the traffic comes from, and it varies tremendously, but it's I have a New York Times story, a very small percentage actually comes through the New York Times website, and a lot depends on who else links to it. Just one example, if Matt Drudge links to my article, the numbers go through the roof, and they're not coming in through the main New York Times portal. I suspect a lot of people don't even know they're reading a New York Times article. And there ought to be a way, that benefits the people who produce that content.
I mean, it's really interesting because if you look back at Mark Zuckerberg's comments from over a year ago, May 2018, he was saying people don't come to Facebook for news. They come here to share content. We're not a publisher. And so there's really been a turnaround from him trying to distance himself from the publishing business to saying, okay, we're going to work with you guys, try to support you by making sure that people are, if they're clicking to read an article, they're reading it on NewYorkTimes.com. And the New York Times is getting that revenue and perhaps the subscription dollars. But that is a question. Do people want to read professional news on Facebook or just what their friends share?
Well, my feeling is it's the platform now. It's the delivery platform. And, of course, people are going to be getting news and everything. They don't, distinguish, I want news. Certainly they don't want it in a newsprint thing that lands on their doorstep every morning anymore. But, I don't think they draw that distinction. I remember years ago talking to the Facebook people, and they scoffed at the idea that we're not touching news. We don't want to go there. We don't have anything to do with news. It's too hard to police, and some of the controversies they've gotten into. And now I think they recognize that they can't help it because whether they put the news on there, whether their subscribers put the news on, people go to Facebook as their portal to the world, and they want to get everything.
But when people go to Facebook, are they going to click on a separate news tab? Yes, they'll read things in their feed, they'll read what their uncle shared, but are they going to go over and say, oh, this is my news source of news? That's the question, right?
Yeah, I know. We'll have to see.
It's been a long time coming, but it's good to get some details on it. Jim, have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Jim Stewart, Julia Borston.
When we return, Wall Street's report card. We'll speak with the New York State Comptroller on headwinds for 2020 and what an Elizabeth Warren presidency would mean for Wall Street. And a quick programming note, don't miss an exclusive with Snap CEO Evan Spiegel Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern. Squawk on the Streets back after this quick break.
It's a madhouse.
London, switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and Be Unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
The B&Q 3 for 2 offer is now on, including an unmissable 3 for 2 on tiles and flooring, like real wood and laminate. So hurry to B&Q. You can do it when you're 3 for 2 it. Excludes cut-to-measure flooring, flooring accessories and underlay. Every third item per single transaction in descending price order free. Offer ends November 3rd. See DIY.com.
Chase the sun with TUI to over 40 long-haul destinations. Explore the beautiful beaches of Jamaica, sip margaritas in Mexico, or see the many wonders of Asia. And until the 26th of October, enjoy £150 off per booking. When you fly with us, we'll take you there on one of our state-of-the-art Dreamliner planes. TUI. We cross the T's, dot the I's, and put you in the middle. T's and C's apply. Minimum spend £1,200 and available on selected holidays. See website for details. Atoll protected.
Hey NFL fans, can't watch the game? Can't be there? We've got you covered. With TuneIn Premium, you can hear every NFL game live as it's happening, or catch it later on demand. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Upgrade to TuneIn Premium and get over 45 commercial-free music stations. You'll also get live commercial-free news, plus live play-by-play games from NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
From the TuneIn Studios, I'm Fonseca with your daily sports update. The World Series continues this evening. 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern is when we're going to get that first pitch. Houston Astros, Washington Nationals.
You don't want to be down 2-0, but here we are. I don't think anybody here is, I think the message is just don't hang your head. We didn't play our best baseball. We don't have time to feel bad about ourselves.
Again, that first pitch is at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern. If you want to catch it, search MLB and favorite your team. Even set up reminders so you don't miss a moment of the World Series right here on TuneIn.
One strategist is flagging a contrarian play on the U.S.-China trade war. Find out what it is on tradingnation.cnbc.com. Well, Squawk on the Streets coming up.
So Schwab taught me about four-legged option strategies.
Get social with TuneIn. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest and greatest audio on the app. Explore exclusive content. Learn about hot new podcasts and get alerted when the big game, well, it's about to begin. Add TuneIn to your feed and be in the know when it matters most.
Swinging a line drive, base hit into right field. Way back goes this one. It's got a chance. It's going, and long gone up onto the railroad tracks. Welcome to the World Series.
The excitement of the Fall Classic is here, and you can hear every call of the 2019 World Series on TuneIn Premium. The action begins tonight with Game 3 between the American League champion Houston Astros and NL champion Washington Nationals. Listen live at 8 Eastern as two of Major League Baseball's most storied franchises look to bring home the World Series title. The 2019 World Series is on TuneIn Premium.
Welcome back. Walmart, CVS, and Rite Aid pulling Johnson & Johnson baby powder from their shelves after the FDA found sub-trace levels of asbestos in the product. Our Meg Terrell joins us with the latest. Meg.
Hey, Morgan. Well, it was last Friday when Johnson & Johnson made the bombshell announcement that it was recalling one lot of its talc-based baby powder, about 33,000 bottles. The company said it was doing so out of an abundance of caution after the FDA said a test was positive for asbestos in a single bottle purchased from an online retailer. Now, major pharmacies are pulling bottles of that size, 22 ounces, from their shelves, with Walmart and Rite Aid joining CVS. They say they began this on the 18th when the news came out. Now, Johnson & Johnson says it has a, quote, rigorous testing standard in place to ensure its cosmetic talc is safe, and years of testing, including the FDA's own testing on prior occasions and as recently as last month, found no asbestos. Still, the stock has taken a major hit on the headlines, wiping $23 billion in market value from J&J since the announcement last Friday. That's according to Bernstein, which asks in a note today, quote, $23 billion for one bottle of talc? They suggest buying on the weakness, but others, like Jefferies' Jared Holt, say J&J should just pull baby powder completely, as the stock reactions, he says, are not worth the headache. And that draws parallels to J&J's famous move from the early 1980s when it pulled all Tylenol from shelves after 7 people died from poisonings of the product. That was lauded as a case study of how to handle a crisis. But of course, guys, this is a different situation, not least because J&J faces thousands of lawsuits over its talc-based baby powder, claiming it caused users cancer. Now, I asked J&J, why keep it on the shelves? They say there are customers who like the product, and it's about consumer choice. And they reiterate their testing shows the product is safe. David?
Meg, thank you. All right, let's send it over to John Fort now so we can get a look at what's coming up on Squawk Alley. John.
Big beat and a raise from Intel last night. Intel CEO Bob Swan has some detail on that, and that is coming up in Squawk Out.
So, ServiceNow put your workflows in the
Teaching shapes lives. Becoming a teacher means a career of opportunities. You could head a subject department or work towards school leadership. And with a minimum starting salary of £24,000 to £30,000, teaching has never been so rewarding. Teaching. Every lesson shapes a life. Search Get Into Teaching. Starting salary dependent on location.
London. Switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and Be Unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
The world's longest wedding dress was longer than the Grand National Racecourse. Think that's big?
Tonight, the Euro Millions jackpot is a colossal £52 million. 52 million! Now that's big!
Euro Millions from the National Lottery. Amazing starts here.
Estimated jackpot. Rules and procedures apply. Players must be 16 or over.
Hello? This is Dustin. I found something. Is anybody there?
We hear you, Dustin. With Sky Q, you can easily catch up on epic Netflix shows like Stranger Things and then watch award-winning Sky originals like Chernobyl. Get Sky and Netflix all in one place on Sky Q for one surprisingly low price. Just £25 a month. Visit sky.com and join today. Offer ends November 14th. 18-month minimum terms. Prices may change during contract. Requires Sky Q box connected to broadband. Set up from £20. Further terms apply.
Should we go halves?
I'll get this. Let me just get my card, which was in my pocket.
You can't control awkward first dates, but if you temporarily misplace your debit card, you can freeze and unfreeze it on our mobile banking app. Feel in control every day. Lloyds Bank, by your side. You can only freeze some transaction types. T's and C's apply.
MSNBC is live on TuneIn. Get up-to-the-minute coverage on news and events from around the world with MSNBC's 24/7 station on TuneIn. At home or on the go, stay on top of the latest news and political commentary with MSNBC's full lineup of shows, including The Beat with Ari Melber, All In with Chris Hayes, and The Rachel Maddow Show. And when news breaks, MSNBC takes you there with live updates and expert analysis as the story unfolds. Search MSNBC on TuneIn to get in the know.
Far wing elevates, triple bucket.
The roar of the crowd. The shot clock ticks down. Will the ball go in? The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. And the replays just don't cut
to
it.
The sideline, the man bleeds for three.
TuneIn Premium brings you every minute of the NBA season streaming live, so you can be there when it matters most. Hear it now. Hear it live on TuneIn.
Pump fake in the lane, turnaround jumper from 8 feet is good on the
Search
right block.
NBA Today to start listening.
Welcome back to Squawk on the Street. Despite global economic slowing and trade tensions, Wall Street is booming. Here to discuss is New York State Comptroller Thomas DiNapoli. Thanks for being here. So you put out this Wall Street report card. Bottom line, is it booming? Is Wall Street booming?
A good first half of the year. And we look carefully about what's happening in Wall Street, big contributor to the revenue, the tax revenue that comes to New York City and New York State. So for the first half of the year, compared to the first half of 2018, up 11% pre-tax profits for the securities industry in New York City, $15 billion. And that's the best in 10 years for first half year performance. But that's only half the year, so we still have a ways to go. We don't have the third quarter numbers in yet, so a lot of indications that we need to be cautious as we head towards the end of the year.
So are you cautious for the second half of the year? Early signs showing it?
Yes. There's a lot happening with the global economy, as you all always report. There is a general view that we're headed into a low return environment. Certainly our perspective as a pension fund investor, we've actually lowered our long-term assumed rate of return because of that issue. We'll see where the bonus pool is headed. Also in terms of employment, at the beginning of the year it looked like they were continuing to add jobs on the street. Well, now it looks like they're shedding jobs. So, we always have to remind everyone Wall Street is still smaller today than it was before the global financial crisis in terms of headcount, but still an outsized contributor to the economy in New York City and New York State.
Have you been impressed with their discipline on compensation?
I think the discipline has improved, and certainly I think there's less risk-taking than there used to be. I think tying compensation and bonuses to long-term results makes more sense. Having more deferred compensation, all of that makes sense. But we'll see what the outcome will be for this year. We saw the bonus pool was down somewhat last year. We also are seeing the set aside for compensation first half of the year down about 1%. So part of how his net revenue is slowing. That's one of the other issues. It's still growing, but slower. How will they continue to be profitable? Keeping down expenses. That will have an impact on compensation, on headcount. So we'll keep a close eye on it.
I wonder as well, though, about what we might not lump in here, private equity, hedge funds, some of the biggest earners and the biggest paychecks, certainly in New York City, that are getting taxed. SALT going away, and just in general, anecdotally, I know guys who leave. They're continuing to go to Florida or other places. Is that an issue when you look at overall revenues?
Oh, I think it has to be. But I think some of the information we have is still more anecdotal than hard data at this point.
But there's a budget shortfall this year, isn't there?
Well, we typically have a structural budget gap, and we're actually, the numbers are somewhat holding better than they were at the beginning of the year.
Really?
At least for now. But it's really heading into next year when we start the budget process that'll kick off in January, and there is a structural gap. As you know, it's been reported in the press of late, our Medicaid costs are going up higher than anticipated. So there's a lot in the mix that we have to look at.
How much has SALT hurt, do you think, and will continue to the lack of the deduction?
It's hard to quantify, but there's no doubt that some of the higher earners, that was like the last straw for some of them. I'm always concerned also about the middle class folks. You know, a cap of $10,000 on state and local tax. I live on Long Island.
Right.
$10,000 is not much of a property tax bill, let alone the other taxes. What happens if we start to lose the middle class? And that's the real backbone of our community. So hopefully those efforts in Washington to change some of that.
It's not going to happen.
Not going to happen anytime soon, but, you know, things change in this country. We've learned that very dramatically in recent years, so we'll see.
What about banks' efforts to move their back offices to Austin and Salt Lake? Has the bulk of that been done, do you feel, or is that still
I think so. I think New York is holding pretty steady at this point. And look, we may benefit from what's happening with Brexit. Perhaps at London's expense, perhaps at Hong Kong's expense. There may be some actually opportunities there for New York to grow some of those operations.
So what's the industry, though? I mean, financial services has been such an important component of the New York economy, but your point out, in terms of overall percentage of employment, it's not that large. I mean, is Google picking up the slack? Amazon certainly would have.
Yeah.
Do the likes of Facebook, all these other, Amazon, even though they didn't open the headquarters, is that where the new jobs are coming from?
There's no doubt the tech sector is growing significantly in New York. Those are good jobs, high-paying jobs. But let's, keep in mind, as we look at it, although in terms of headcount of employment, you're only talking about 5% of the workforce in New York City related to Wall Street, to securities industry, it accounts for 20% of the wage and salary. So has an outsized, those jobs have an outsized impact on our city and state economy. It's why we need New York to continue to be the capital for finance here for the United States and for the world.
Well, Thomas DiNapoli, New York State Comptroller, thanks for joining us today.
Nice to be with you.
Hamilton's buried right nearby. You can go thank him.
I always go by and cross my thumb.
It's a great place to stop and visit. When we come back, the CEO of Intel, Bob Swan, on his company's results, the road ahead, and a lot more. Speaking of which, all